Good evening, welcome to C&T Collectibles. I am C, hope you're doing well this evening, and this week we are going to see the drop of Top Series 2 2021, and the checklist was released recently, so it's time to take a look at who we may or may not want to target. I'm sorry about the lighting, I can't get my blinds to close, and it's that time of night, so it is what it is, but it obscures my face probably nicely and more pleasing for everybody out there. So anyways, as we did with the preseason, we are going to take a look at the releases and who we may want or may not want to target. 350 cards, roughly 1 in every 7 is going to be a rookie this year, so it's important to choose wisely, or as wise as we can. I think we'll perhaps figure this out together. So what I do is I go through the rookie checklist, run the numbers against. I don't run any numbers. Fangraphs runs the numbers. I just look at their scouting scale. I don't look at these guys. You're probably not looking at these guys. So let's let the scouts who do look at these guys give us their grades and their assessment. And so what I do is I'm looking for players that are age 25 or younger and have a expected future value of on that 20-80 scale, 20 being you're probably not a major leaguer, 80 being your Wander Franco type level prospect. When you get into that level, 70s, Vlad Guerrero, Gavin Lux, 65, Ronald Acuna, get down to like 50, Juan Soto was down there. So I want them to be at least a 50 future value level prospect in 25 years or younger. So I'm sorry, Jake Cronenworth, you've got a rookie coming out, but you're 27 years old, and we're not going to consider you for a long-term investing type targeting or anything like that. So got a list of guys, not in any order, but just kind of going by that expected future value. So we'll start off with a couple of the honorable mentions, guys that people may be looking at, and they've heard their name because they're up or they're doing something kind of special. It's like, oh, he may be this guy. And see if I can pour some water on it. Honestly, Series 2 looks like a lot like Series 1. It's like, man. But let's have some fun anyways. Pavin Smith, honorable mention. 45 hit tool, 45 expected future value, so he just misses the cut. He wasn't getting that 50 future value. 45 hit, 50 raw power grade, and what you're seeing from his pretty decent hitting profile. He's striking at less than 20% of the time, walking around 10% of the time, or just under that, with an average around the 270 or 280. But if you're hitting those kinds of numbers and you're playing first base, we want to see power, and that hasn't really manifested itself now, or even in the minors. You didn't really see a lot of that isolated power while under 200. In this year, he does have 5 home runs, and I think he hit those kind of in a short window of time, so people got excited, but probably not a player I am overly interested in. So he again, he's 25 years old, 45 future value, so not super interested. Again, you need to be hitting some bombs if you're going to play that position and get a lot of run here. Now, a guy that is hitting some bombs is Sam Huff. So he is a 30 hit. He has a 30 hit tool. It's kind of funny. So don't expect him, to put up the big average. Although it's kind of crazy, he has. And this guy's 6'4", 230, just beats the crap out of the ball. 23 years old. Raw power 70 grade. Game power 55 grade. So average fielder, but a future value of 45 overall. And they're probably thinking that he can't hit. Well, he's come up this year, and he's got 33 plate appearances, and he's hitting 355. So he's got a 471 BABIP. So we got to temper our expectations a little bit on that one. There's a person that's maintained kind of a 33% strikeout rate, and he's even doing that in the majors right now, so I don't think regression is too far out there. It's too crazy to say that, but he does have a high ISO, so that, again, that 355 on a 471 BABIP, but 3 home runs, so one in every 11 plate appearances, which is kind of crazy. So he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's just hitting bombs and striking out. So over the long term, we know that doesn't really work out. So again, this might be a name that is of interest because he's come up and he's doing his best. Joey Gallo, unfair to Joey Gallo, who doesn't quite have that strikeout rate, but this could be a guy where you're like, oh hey, geez, I got to get on Sam Huff. Slow down. So all right, Mickey Moniak. So this was the number 1 prospect for the Phillies. He was a first round pick in 2016. And he's got a 45 future value. And he's mostly, he's got a decent hit tool, not a lot of power, 55 speed, 50 field grade. And he came up and it didn't work out too well as in his first stint, which, I'm not going to judge anything on that. But looking through his minor league stats, not a lot of power, 250, 260 hitter. So this might be kind of a defense first kind of guy. So again, those are kind of the players that might be on your radar for one reason or another. Maybe they shouldn't be. So all right, let's get into the list overall. And we'll start it off with Trevor Rogers, who's come up and he's been incredible. So 23 years old, 50 overall future value, 60 grade on the 20 to 80 scale, fastball, change, command. This is all-star level stuff. 6-3, striking out 10 per 9 with a 1.97 ERA. His xFIP right now is about 344, and that's kind of where he was at in the minors. So look for some regression to happen there. Left on base, 82%, and that's a lot higher than the 70% level he's had. Now, maybe he came up and figured something out in the majors, or maybe the majors haven't quite figured him out yet. So we'll see what happens. But his strikeout rate has actually increased from the minor league level, decreased his walk rate, and he looks awesome. So that is a player that checks those boxes. 23. 50 future value with some elite level pitching skills. Yeah, I am interested in Trevor Rogers. All right, let's move on to Hyun Soo Kim. I apologize if I messed that up. So, 25 years old, who's spent his career up until this point in the Korean baseball league. So, 25 years old, 50 hit, 50 power, 55 speed, 50 future value. And so, in the Korean league, he's a 280, 290 hitter with some decent power for a middle infielder. 200 ISO or just under that. A guy that could average somewhere in that 20 to in that 20 home run range. His most recent season, he had 30 home runs. So. He's got some pop for a middle infielder. His hit tool is pretty good. I mean, last year, again, he's a guy that strikes out 10-15% of the time and walks around 10% of the time. So that's what you want to see. Now he's making an adjustment coming over to Major League Baseball, striking out over 10% of the time, walking about 5% of the time, not a lot of power. And so you expect this from a transition when you come from leagues that are not Major League Baseball to scuffle just a little bit. So we'll have to see how this turns out. But again, he does have a decent scouting grade, and he's got the pedigree in professional baseball, Korean professional baseball, of a pretty darn nice middle infielder. So we'll see how that goes. Again, probably not someone I'm going after terribly hard. Need to see him prove it here just a little bit, but he's a guy that could do it. All right, moving on to Alejandro Kirk, and this is a player. I liked quite a bit when he was called Williams Astudillo. So no, this is kind of the same body type. 22-year-old with the 50 future value. Another guy that's just gonna hit like crazy and with some decent power. So he has it's kind of the same as Astudillo, where very low strikeout rate, very low walk rate. Astudillo's to the extreme. Just he doesn't walk or strike out. He just puts everything in play, which is kind of to his detriment because it's a lot of weak contact. You just sometimes wait for something you can barrel up, I guess, once in a while. But Kirk, yeah, I mean, he strikes out 13% of the time, walks 10% of the time, and right now he's not having the greatest season here. Hitting about 225 with an under with a 200 BABIP. So we'll see under the hood if there's something else there, but not a lot of power. So it's another guy that's going to hit. But when you're looking at rookie cards, I mean, you want the guys that have a combination, either hit a ton of bombs or a combination of good average with a respectable number of bombs, 20-25 home runs or something like that for that longer term bet. And he's not really doing that, but he's only 22 years old, so he's got the hit tool. See what he can develop. So interesting, but again, the catchers and pitchers, I almost disregard them. So speaking of catchers that you almost want to disregard, Luis Campos. So 22 years old with a 55 future value. So we're getting better here. 55 hit, 60 raw power. In the minors, he was a player that had a roughly a 300 average, and you could carry a decent BABIP, but there's no power associated with that. So he's not gonna hit a ton, and right now he's striking out nearly 30% of the time, and so he really needs to get down to that 15-20 area, kind of where he was at in the minors, and be a 300 hitter to have a lot of value card-wise if you want to be an elite level catcher. And you saw it a little bit in the minors, not seeing it right now. So again, 22 years old, perhaps that can come around. So interesting enough, but it's not a player that I think I would go crazy on. One, because catcher. Two, it's going to be at his best. Maybe this is a guy that hits 10-15 home runs and bats 290, and that doesn't really ring the register for me, at least. All right, so with these last three guys we're starting to get into some interesting territory here. not just because of the awesome hair color. Jazz Chisholm is a 23-year-old, 55 future value, 60 raw power, speed, and fielding ability. So in the past couple of seasons, he's got a little bit of major league run. He played over third of a season last year, and he's played 35 games this year. What you're seeing is kind of a low power output. This year, actually, it's pretty respectable, over 200 ISO. But he's 270 average on a 365 BABIP. So he's getting a little bit lucky, maybe a little homer happy. So 7 home runs so far this year, but he barrels up 12% of the time. He's got a decent hard hit rate, but the exit velocity, it's a little shy of what you would consider a true power hitter. As max exit velocity about a 111. So those elite guys, you're up around 120 or something like that. So it's respectable. He can hit some homers. I think that strikeout rate is really going to prevent him from true greatness at the middle infield position. So 33% strikeout rate. Let's see if he can get that down into the 20 area and start knocking like 25 home runs, and I'll be impressed. But again, 23 years old. He's having a decent season so far, but make of that what you will, I suppose. So, all right. Last couple here. Brian Hayes. All right, man. We're getting big time, aren't we? 24 years old, 60 future value, 60 hit, 50 raw power, 55 speed, 70 field. This is a Gold Glove level defender here in the major leagues. He came up last year and absolutely ripped it up here. He was a 376 average over half a season with a 450 BABIP, so you gotta assume that there's going to be some regression in there, but his strikeout rate is elite. So here's a guy that could hit. Right now he's hitting 316 on 286 BABIP. Okay, he's only played 5 games this year, but we know he can hit. So walking over 10% of the time, striking out. I mean, his walk rate and his strikeout rate are identical right now at 13.6%. So the hit tool is there, the defense is there. As far as power, not a big power guy, and so I think that's gonna hold him back. Think of all the players that had 290, 300 average, and maybe some stolen bases, but no power. How did that work out over the longer term? So I think he'll be fun to watch for a long time. But as far as going crazy on his cards, maybe not for me, but that's more for the rest of you there. So all right, and we'll finish it up with Alex Kirilloff. All right, I'm biased. He's a Twin, so I get to do that. So all right, Alex Kirilloff. He is a 23-year-old with a 60 future value, 60 hits, 60 power. The thing that kind of stands out to me is a lot of his reputation. He came up as this power hitter. There was a year he was hitting a ton of doubles and hitting some home runs. In 130 games between A and high A, he had 20 home runs. Striking out roughly 15% of the time, walking like 7-8% of the time. So with a well over a 300 average, and he kind of built his name off of that, but hasn't come close to repeating it since. And so, he tore up A-ball. It's like, I would like to see him tear up double A-ball, and I would like to see him go nuts, triple A, major leagues. And it hasn't quite happened yet here. So he's got 107 plate appearances this year, and he's striking out 27% of the time, walking, 5% of the time with a 238 average. So need to see some adjustments here. Again, 23 years old. These are the kinds of guys you can afford. They can afford a year and a half to kind of right the ship here. But again, with a lot of that damage coming, and he was hurt. I mean, he hurt his wrist, and so maybe he's still recovering. That was a couple of years ago, but those things can linger for longer than we think. So, but a lot of that damage coming in 2018 in A-ball. I'd like to see something a little more recent, perhaps. So for me, overall, Series 2, it's a lot like Series 1, where I'm not super excited, I guess. So some of these guys could certainly turn into something, and so hold on to those base cards and get some cheap parallels. But anybody that's absolutely ripping up right now, they're probably Sam Huff and Brian Hayes. Give them some time when they come out of the gates. Those might be the hot cards because relative to everybody else. And so I said about Joe Adell in Series 1, I'm like, listen, he's going to come out the gates. I think people are going to be really excited about him. Just wait. And you can get his stuff pretty cheap right now. So look at these other guys, like Huff and Brian. They're going to come out. And just because of lack of everything else, these are the guys that people will be really, really looking for. It's like, just wait. There's regression in the cards for those guys. Focus on maybe some of these other guys. and see what happens on there. But I don't think there's 2019 Series 2, looking at the pedigree of those players and what they did in the first part of the year, not seeing it here. So we'll look forward to update and see what that brings. So that's what I got for you tonight. I appreciate your time, and have a great rest of the evening. Bye now.